Halloween time is here. I've spookied up my room just a little bit, just for the Halloween season, so enjoy. If there's one genre I think has a particularly hard time transferring to live theater, it's horror. Of course, this isn't always the case, but I think what it comes down to is that a lot of the genre depends so much on what you can or can't see. In films, a great bit of suspense comes from what the camera is showing you and the looming presence of what could be right off screen. In literature, the author is able to play with dramatic irony and, frankly, the reader's own lurid imagination. Now, both of these aspects can be transferred to live theater, but it is just very difficult to pull off. You're typically playing with a much larger space when you have an entire stage, and you can only keep so much from the average audience member. Along with that, while you can do a lot with practical live effects and sleight-of-hand trickery in a live setting, it's just flat out easier to do giant scope, suspenseful scenes in films and books. But that does not mean that people have not tried to craft horror in the theater. Oh, my friends, they certainly have. Carrie the Musical, Jekyll and Hyde, and even Sweeney Todd are all earnest attempts at creating a horror musical, all to varying degrees of success. Even shows like Little Shop of Horrors, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Beetlejuice are all sort of tongue-in-cheek versions of the genre and work exceptionally well. Don't even get me started on American Psycho the Musical. However, there's one so-called horror musical that particularly piqued my interest because it contains everything that I love in a musical. And by love, I mean hate. It's terribly campy, it's full of poorly dated pop culture references, and it was only ever performed at a theme park. If you're at all familiar with my channel, you might be thinking, wow, this is sort of a perfect storm for Max. It has everything that he so hates in this world. And you know what? You're right. I am shocked. I'm baffled that this musical exists. And I can't wait to tell you about it. I present to you The Creature from the Black Lagoon, the musical. Much like the amount of spooky sins, this video comes to you in 7 parts. Part 1, The Creature. I'm gonna assume that a lot of you have never seen the original 1954 film, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and out of fear that I might bore you, here's a very quick synopsis. So, an archaeologist finds a hand in a rock that looks like it might be from some sort of fish person. Remember that, it's gonna come back later. The archaeologist reconnects with his old student, Dr. David Reed, who is an ichthyologist, someone who studies fish. They both go out in search of more fossils and potentially the entire creature with Kay, Reed's girlfriend, Dr. Mark Williams, his boss, and Captain Lucas, who drives the boat. And there's a few other crew members there as well, but they're gonna die pretty early. Spoilers. Soon, when Kay goes for a swim all on her own, they realize that this creature they all assumed was extinct is still alive. Meet the Creature from the Black Lagoon, or as he is also known, Gillman.
There he is!
And what do we know about Gillman, you're all asking? Well, he's a man covered in gills. He likes women. I know he likes women. He's in love with Kay, who is a human, and he's a fish person. Obvious conflict there. We can boil down most of his motivation to that. Other than that, he just kind of likes to kill people and mess with this boat. Now, does the fact that Gillman has no origin story, no real motives, and no understandable intentions make him sort of a bad villain? Why? Yes! But does it make the movie bad? Not at all. I actually think that every other character is interesting enough to make this movie watchable. Dr. Reed and Kay seem to have a cute relationship. Dr. Williams is a total asshole the whole movie and wants to harpoon the creature from the get-go. Captain Lucas is charming and nice comedic relief from time to time, and the murders are all very satisfying. The hardest part about The Creature from the Black Lagoon is that to take it seriously, you really have to get over how stupid Gillman looks. I swear, every time you look at him, his mouth is agape. I really wanted to buy a mask of The Creature from the Black Lagoon for this video, and I went to Spirit Halloween to buy one, and it was $70. And I'm so sorry, I just couldn't justify paying $70 for the dumbest looking mask. But something about his mouth always being open does make him a little unironically scary. Not to mention the fact that whenever he's above water, he's dripping wet, which just seems like an unpleasant sensation, you know, to be touched by this. All in all, I do really dig The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and it was a huge success for Universal at the time, which was known for their monster flicks. The film even got 2 sequels, The Creature Returns and The Creature Walks Among Us. But surprisingly to me, Creature never got a big reboot. Other than Guillermo del Toro's smutty Gilman fanfic, The Shape of Water, Creature was never really successful enough in its longevity to warrant any reboot. At least not on the big screen. Part 2, Universal Studios Hollywood. Okay, here's my hot take on Universal Studios Hollywood. I love it. I grew up going to this park. As a film dork, I love the studio tour, and while yes, it's much smaller than its Orlando counterpart, I still think it's a great little park. However, it is far from perfect, and back in 2008, it was an entirely different park. Before Minions, Harry Potter, Transformers, Chris Pratt, and Nintendo took over, it was a much humbler little area. It had 4D Shrek, The Simpsons were still charming, and surprisingly, it had a lot of stage shows. A special effects show, Fear Factor, Terminator 2, 3D, Waterworld. All shows more boring than the last because they didn't have any songs or silly little creatures. Well, that was all about to change. So as things go, they decided to spice things up with an all-original musical to open in July of 2009. That show being Creature from the Black Lagoon the Musical, their first original musical since Spider-Man Rocks. What is Spider-Man Rocks, you ask? Well... Yeah, I could spend a whole video unpacking that, and I entirely plan to. But back to what we're talking about. Why would they choose Gilman out of all the properties they had to make a musical about? Well, I think it's important to note the rise of the Universal monsters as a property. This is something Universal is aware of and cashes in on every October for Halloween Horror Nights, but Universal has made some of the most iconic monster films. Of course, they didn't invent a lot of them, but they made the movies of them. Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy, you know them. Pretty much everyone invited to the Monster Mash is there. Well, that's not really fair to say. I guess everyone's invited to the Monster Mash at the end of the song. And for quite some time now, Universal has started advertising them as a singular entity, the Universal Monsters. Sort of like how Disney advertises the Disney princesses as a singular entity, but rather than being for little girls, it's for smelly guys in their 30s. Now, as for why the creature, I can only give one guess, and that's that it's one of the only original monsters they have. A lot of their horror films have their roots in classic literature or folklore or mythology, but The Creature from the Black Lagoon is just universal. Gilman is a uniquely universal character, and I think that that is a big part of the reason why he's the star of our musical here. Just some food for thought. I could be wrong, but that's my best guess. Part 3, how is this happening? So when this was announced, no one believed it. I find this LA Times article very telling of that, where pretty much every paragraph ends with the author saying, "I swear I'm not making this up." But when I found out that this thing even existed, albeit years after it had closed, I gotta be honest with you guys, I was thrilled. Every outside aspect of this musical is amazing. But there is something weird about this musical. You see, I reviewed plenty of musicals on this channel, and for every single one, I was able to confidently say who wrote the book, the lyrics, the music, who produced it, etc. All of that information was very readily available for me. But not for this one. On a first Google search and a quick scroll through the Wikipedia page, it just doesn't show up, which is very atypical for a musical, especially one that so many people saw. So I did a little sleuthing, and I found a few articles that list who was involved in this. The articles claim that the music was by someone named Fred Barton, and some of it was done by someone named Peter Fish. The lyrics were written by Barton and Fish, also Ross Osterman and Gerard Alessandrini, and the book was written by Jonathan Tollins. Finally, it was directed and choreographed by Lynn Taylor Corbett. I've also seen a few sources that claim that Gerard Alessandrini is the original director of this production, but it is incredibly hard to know that for sure due to a lot of conflicting sources. Just throwing that out there. Do any of those names mean anything to you? Probably not. The ones who have done things you may have heard of are Lynn Taylor Corbett, who supposedly originally choreographed Titanic, and according to her Wikipedia page, Chess, which is big if true. And Fred Barton and Gerard Alessandrini both went on to do Spamilton, that parody of Hamilton. Surprisingly, that's relevant if you take a look at how weird this musical is. But what I find interesting and why I'm bringing it to your attention is that very few people involved in this musical have their names attached to it, especially the creative team. They're not on the Wikipedia page, and all of their websites have been stripped from anything creature related. And the one that fascinates me the most is composer Fred Barton. His website has no mention of the Creature from the Black Lagoon musical, despite me finding from multiple sources online that he was the composer of it. At the very least, he was the co-composer with Peter Fish, who has unfortunately passed away. But there's a little thing on the internet called the Wayback Machine, which lets you take a website and go back in time with it and see what it looked like in years past. So I did this with Fred Barton's website, and he at one point featured the Creature from the Black Lagoon musical, so I have confirmation that Fred Barton is the co-composer along with Peter Fish. But there's something else I found on the website, which is 2 professional recordings of 2 songs from the musical, one of which is not in the final show. When I tell you how excited I was to find these, you won't believe me. So I highly recommend you listen to those. I'll link them down below. So I have confirmation that all of those people I mentioned were involved in this musical, except he doesn't mention Peter Fish, which is a little weird, right? Like, if you wrote a musical with another guy, maybe put his name on your website. I even reached out to Barton to see if he could clarify for me the creative team on this, or even just tell me anything he wanted to about the musical, and he ghosted me. How odd. Hey everyone, it's Low Quality Max back again. I wanted to make sure my spooky blanket was in frame this time. Maybe I'll just drop down here. Oh, now you can see my unsightly room. Low Quality Max shots are always harder for me because I don't know how to angle my phone. Oh god. Maybe I'll just vlog it. I wanted to hop on here and talk about the Wikipedia edits for the Creature for the Black Lagoon musical, which is a resource that Wikipedia makes readily available. The creative team of the Creature from the Black Lagoon musical at one point was in fact listed on the Wikipedia page, but it since has been edited. Essentially, the Wikipedia edits for the Creature for the Black Lagoon musical were made by someone not involved in the show, as far as it seems. The creative team was removed by Wikipedia user Just Another Cringy Username because the material was unsourced. I think it's a common misconception about Wikipedia that the people on the page can edit their page. That is simply not allowed. So if it sounds like that's what I'm saying, I want to make it abundantly clear. I'm not saying the creative team wiped themselves from the Wikipedia. What I am saying, though, is that their involvement in the musical is not very advertised. I could go on the Wikipedia page and change it myself and add them back, but I don't really want to. So if someone wants to do that, they can. Also mention my video. Okay, bye. The pre-show for this musical is pretty odd too. It seems like they would do this thing outside of the venue where they would show how they got Gilman into the vicinity. I think the video of that sort of sums up the vibes of the show. Universal Studios Hollywood is proud to present the star of our raging rockin' new show, The Creature from the He's gone!
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the situation under control.
But with all of that out of the way, let's get into it, shall we? Here is my annoyingly in-depth review of The Creature from the Black Lagoon, the musical. Part 4, the musical. I don't know if you were expecting a trigger warning for this, but here's one anyway. This musical contains a slur for Romani people, horribly offensive representation of Romani people, and I have to say this, an alleged sex offender. I'm of course going to censor the slurs, but I do think it's important to show this musical and what it is, so I'm not gonna cut the other stuff. It's horribly offensive, disgusting, and if that's something you don't want to see, I entirely understand. Just a fair warning. So, Creature begins with one of the strangest pre-show announcements I think I've ever heard.
Ladies and gentlemen, the show you are about to experience depicts an unnatural romance. This relationship is performed by highly trained professionals, and so we ask that you do not attempt to engage in an unnatural romance at home, and remind you that even your average garden variety romance involves a frightening degree of risk.
Define unnatural. The actual musical begins with all-around shitty dude Matt Lauer being very characteristically creepy.
One fine lady ichthyologist. You know, you'd think they'd put some pictures of her in here.
Come there. Jeez.
Who would have thought that the scariest thing in this musical is real?
The Creature from the Black Lagoon was made famous in the Universal monster movie classic from the 1950s.
Just a scary work of fiction, right? Well, maybe not.
Here's what's weird about this intro. It implies that the Creature from the Black Lagoon is both a movie and a person that exists in the reality that this musical takes place in. This isn't entirely unheard of for a reboot of a horror series. It's exactly what the new reboot of Scream does. But what is weird is that all of the characters are the same from the actual movie. There's a woman named Kay who the creature falls in love with, who in this version is also an ichthyologist. There's an asshole named Mark and a guy named David. So there's two possibilities here. Either one, the Creature from the Black Lagoon is entirely based on reality and history is weirdly repeating itself here, or two, there's some shady time travel going on here. How spooky! We go from here into our opening number, Black Lagoon, which is a very villainous sounding song. It almost sounds like a Bowser's theme of sorts. Just listen. In the song, we're introduced to all of our main characters, including one of the biggest changes from the original film, the replacement of Captain Lucas with Captain Miranda, who is now played as a caricature of a Romani person. Yeah, I know. This is incredibly hard to watch at many different instances, and why did they make this change? I have literally no idea. It's the first time I feel like I just actually have no idea, other than, oh, it's 'cause they're racist.
Where you to fish are spawned, the Black Lagoon. It's now on golden ponds, the Black Lagoon. Terror is just a splash away.
The antagonistic Dr. Mark Williams introduces himself here with a very subtle line where he literally just says, "Greed is good."
Breeding in your mouth, Criado.
Greed is good! The babes are better!
Clever. It's also shown that Captain Miranda has a voodoo doll of Dr. Williams that she can use at any time, which I feel like I have to mention does not appear in the original film at all, so I'm not sure why it's here, but don't you fret. It's always predictable and never funny. We also meet Kay and David, the two protagonists, but they changed David's role quite a bit in this musical. You see, in the original film, David is very much the hero and the straight man, but in the musical, he's just kind of a dweeb who says dweeby things and looks all dweeby.
Is that a snake? Good thing that I'm so brave. The water smells like cheese. Black Lagoon. The Disney cruise is fleeing from the Black Lagoon.
I'm not even going to mention that slant rhyme. That was rough. We're also introduced to Kay, who is really unlikable in this.
Here with David, I'm so hot in this jungle of amor. Last chance, if we can't rise to the occasion, I'll find someone else to adore.
Right away, I feel like you'll notice that this is a very cynical parody of the original film in that they've made every character unlikable. This is my least favorite type of parody. It reminds me of those early 2010s YouTube song parodies, which aren't really parodies at all. They're just making fun of the song that they're singing. Or like Nostalgia Critic's parody of The Wall. We're not quite on that same level, but it's the same vibe. Yeah, this song kind of blows, but it ends with our first murder, this guy. Wow, way to commit, dude. Oh, we also get our first glimpse of the creature here, and I gotta say, in this ominous green lighting, he looks pretty dope. They've definitely made him markedly more scary than he is in the original film, and by that I mean his mouth isn't always just slightly open. We go into the first scene here where you'll remember that they've attempted to modernize the story.
Spirits say we can't hear. Pepe, whack the bush.
See.
Jose, check for Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
And I know that Wi-Fi is still relevant and we use it more than ever now, but making a tongue-in-cheek reference to it, it might be the most 2009 thing I've ever heard. Yeah, this kind of stuff happens a lot in this musical, so strap in and make sure to take notes on your nifty new iPad. Anyway, Captain Miranda realizes that her crew is missing and David and Kay have negative chemistry.
Rotting vegetation, decomposing animals, and waste material.
Oh, you sure know how to sweet talk a girl, don't you?
Okay.
Now, you might realize that there was no laughter at that so-called joke, and originally while watching this, I thought, oh, their microphones just didn't pick up the audience's response to the joke. But then I realized I'm watching a bootleg by YouTuber Inside Universal, which means that they're bombing. No one is laughing, which is so sad to me, because, like, even though it's not a good joke, I mean, come on, the audience couldn't just give them like a courtesy laugh. They're bombing up there. You can really tell they're bombing at the end of musical numbers when there's almost comical slow clapping. There's also weirdly a lot of sex jokes in this musical, which raises the question, why is this in a theme park?
Imagine the excitement!
I'm getting pretty good at just imagining excitement. Kiss me, David.
I don't want to clutch my pearls or anything. I think penis joke funny, but it is strange to me that a show located next to a Curious George water park has inappropriate humor. This isn't the only example of it in the show, too.
Ooh, is that a red herring?
So, angry at her boyfriend, Kay goes for a swim in the Black Lagoon, but not before Mark, the douche, hits on her.
Wow, swimming alone, huh?
I'm sorry, the record scratch broke me. Who let that slide?
Why don't you ditch David's little dinghy and hop aboard the SS Sensational?
Boat-themed sex jokes. You don't hear those every day. No, you do not.
I would rather drink a glass of leeches, dip myself in a vat of Ebola virus, then feed myself to a school of ravenous piranha.
Ebola jokes, too! Serious question, do you think the writers went to a middle school during recess and asked them what they think is funny?
Tweet me.
Oh my god, stop it. Hey guys, get in! Let's take a lagoon fee! That's like a selfie, but at a lagoon. Do you see how bad that kind of humor is? Kay sings her I Want song entitled Slay Me, which by the title alone sums up for you what she wants. She does swim over the audience though, which I think is pretty cool. There's also another voice off stage singing harmonies, which I find curious. Just to be clear, this is not the vibe of this scene in the original film. Kay goes for a swim kind of as an act of rebellion, but not because she hates her boyfriend. It's mostly just an impulsive thought she has and is an act of wonder and curiosity. I don't like the weird, horny vibes this song has. Like, who goes for a swim hoping to find a fish to have sex with? I'm not gonna sugarcoat it at all. That's what this song is about. Also, the implications of singing Slay Me are incredibly uncomfortable. Anyway, even though she was literally singing about it, she freaks out when the creature touches her, which is valid, and she swims back to the boat screaming.
What did it look like?
A vertebrate, razor-sharp claws, vestigial fins, incredible muscle tone, six-pack abs that would make a girl... Oh, David, hold me!
Ugh.
There, pobrecita. Your boyfriend is some tonto, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, can I get a hug too?
I thought you'd never ask.
So, if you're not keen on comedy, the joke here is that this woman is gross, and the other one is not. And then she sexually assaults him.
You have nice face. It pleases voodoo spirits.
I know it's super overplayed to say that stuff like this could never be made today, but oh my god.
Dios mío, this is like some horrible monster movie.
What a horrible monster musical!
Two things. One, you said it, brother. Two, Why do we have to shit on the original film? How does that make anyone feel better? Now you have us feeling bad for maybe, God forbid, liking the original film, and you look stupid for adapting it.
Yeah, the only thing that's missing is a wild voodoo prophecy. What the?
God, it's all just so hacky and offensive for no reason. Mind you, the original film is not like this at all. There is so little that could even possibly be misconstrued as offensive in the original film. Why would you take it and try to make it as edgy as possible? That's like making a 25-minute long bad robot chicken sketch with crappy music. Oh yeah, I guess it's notable that when Captain Miranda goes into her trance, she sings exclusively in popular music references. Jesus Christ.
Mocha chocolate, yeah, yeah. Creature, come and hear me, man.
Now I will say that out of all 4 songs in this musical, none of which I like, the Creature's solo is probably my favorite. It's called Prime Evil, and it's the Creature's introduction of sorts. It might have the most pop culture references I've ever heard in a musical theater song. The first lyric reads, "What the hell are you doing round here? 'Cause I'm a Darth Vader, Freddy Krueger, OJ, Moby Dick." Which, wow, I didn't know you could just do that. Just, like, be that blatantly bad. I'm truly baffled.
What the hell are you doing round here? 'Cause I'm a Darth Vader, Freddy Krueger, OJ, Moby Dick.
The rest of the song is much of the same.
'Cause I'm out of control like Amy Winehouse or Axl Rose.
I'm sorry, but ew. Bad lyric, you. Can I just say that? Do I have to analyze why all of these lyrics are just bad? You can't just reference things and say that it's a joke. Where's the punchline? I've had to die on this hill too many times. What does that mean? Is Brad Pitt the opposite of Gilman? What were they thinking when they wrote this lyric? Anyway, they run around the stage for a bit in terror, and the Creature references more things like Megatron, Genghis Khan, and Jackie Chan. You know, the 3 most similar things. And Gilman kidnaps Kay and takes her to his water dungeon. He proceeds to flirt with her, which is weird, and I think we're supposed to feel like they have some sort of chemistry, but I think they have about the same amount of chemistry that she does with David, which is to say none.
You know my name?
Oh, and I know you have green eyes and you're an Aquarius.
What exactly are you?
I'm a Pisces, of course. I enjoy swimming, diving, or water sports.
Why is he vaguely Australian? This takes place in Brazil. The two share that they might be in love with each other and sing a duet entitled Strange New Hunger, and somehow they out-hornied themselves.
I'm permanently stuck on you. I got a strange new hunger in my soul.
Wow, I dislike every song in this musical. This one feels like an 80s ballad that you listen to in the back of your grandma's car on FM radio, but like a crappy one, not even close to Total Eclipse of the Heart. Again, I don't know if I need to say this, but this doesn't happen in the original film. Yes, the Creature is in love with Kay, but she never reciprocates it. And I think that might be one of the only slightly interesting things this musical adds to the original film. But at the same time, it does kind of feel sexist and gross. Like this indication that a woman would just fall in love with this fish because he sort of swoons her after kidnapping her. I don't know, it just feels very bad. But it is an interesting thought. What if Kay did fall in love with the Creature? But unfortunately for this musical, Guillermo del Toro did it much better a few years later. Mark and David come to confront the Creature in the lair.
Seriously? He has his own theme song.
I was starting to believe that Joss Whedon wrote this musical, but the only difference is that Joss Whedon is good at writing musicals. Mark shoots the Creature and Kay shouts,
Creature!
which is what I hope my loved ones shout when I die. And then, I shit you not, he says,
Gil. My name, Gil.
and then he transforms all big-like, which definitely doesn't happen in the movie. But at this point, it doesn't even matter that there was an original movie anymore, right? What's the point? What's the point of anything? This is explained as an accident from Mark where he accidentally puts the tip of his harpoon into his human growth hormones. Get it? 'Cause penis. Oh, thank God. I was getting antsy. It had been a while since the last reference.
No. Looks like I'll be really late getting home tonight. The creature is killing everybody. Oh, there's monkey brains in the freezer. And remember to TiVo Conan.
I don't even want to get into that. Can you just not be racist? Like, was that so hard to not make a racist Creature from the Black Lagoon musical? Something I will say is quite cool in this show is the production design. It is very well done. From this very cool looking boat set piece to the rotating stage, not to mention this giant creature puppet, this thing is really tight on a production level. And here's my favorite fact about the Creature from the Black Lagoon musical. The guy who created this creature puppet and the creature costume also did the puppets from the Finding Nemo musical, which we talked about in my last video. How great is that? That was a total coincidence. His name is Michael Curry, and while I offhandedly mentioned him in my last video, I didn't mention him by name, so I want to give him the biggest shout out in the world. I put his website down in the doobly-doo. Check it out if you get the chance. He has done some really cool stuff. He who has created the Nigel puppet and the creature puppet shall be my best friend. I think it was Moses who said that. The creature goes crazy and kills Mark. Kay tries to confess her love to Gil with a reprise of Strange New Hunger, and the creature literally does the Tim Allen grunt.
I've got a strange new hunger in my heart.
I swear to God, I didn't edit that in. This is the weirdest musical of all time. Kay sings to the creature and promptly gets vored. Can I say that? Can I say vor?
Oh, you really are hungry for lunch.
And frankly, I'm just not into that. I'm sorry. Also, when David shouts no, Kay, it sounds like he says gay.
No! Gay! Why?
Hey, if this musical is allowed to do hacky comedy, so am I. Anyway, on to the closing number, a reprise of everyone's favorite opening number, Black Lagoon. And it ends with everyone who died coming back on stage, all messed up. And just like that, the show is over with a curtain call and a reprise of Prime Evil. And overall, I think we can all agree. That was epic. Part 5, what went wrong? Suffice it to say, no one really liked Creature from the Black Lagoon, the musical.
And what's this? A musical number in a musical? I'm shocked that anything could be so stupid!
Hell, even the bootleg that we just watched has the ominous message at the end, I'm surprised you made it this far. People did not like this show, and it ended up closing 4 months after it opened. They didn't even keep it around for Halloween, and it's a monster musical. The way they closed it was kind of a secret too. They originally just replaced it temporarily for a Bill and Ted show, but then they just quietly never reopened it. Originally, I didn't go watch the Bill and Ted show, but my friend Kim, who edits the scripts of all my videos, went and looked it up, and then I did too. And oh my God, the live Bill and Ted show is awful. But tragically, the creature never came back. It was eventually replaced by the special effects show, which was moving from its original location to make way for the new Transformers ride, the most relevant and long-lasting franchise ever. The Creature musical would never return. Part 6, was this worth saving? It's hard to say. On one hand, I would have loved for this show to get revised while it was closed. They could have maybe, I don't know, rewritten every song and piece of dialogue and make it good. I think the biggest problem with the Creature musical is that it flopped on too many levels to be saved. It was the biggest swing and a miss. Frankly, I don't think I've ever seen a musical with this big of a problem. It's the Regal ad of musicals. Here's something super interesting about this musical though. Did you you know that someone in the musical we just watched went on to win a Tony Award? Not only that, she's actually in the recording that we just watched. Yeah, the actress playing Kay is actually Katrina Lenk, who went on to play Dina in The Band's Visit and actually win the Tony Award for Best Actress in a Musical. And then she went on to play Bobby in the new revival of Company, which I think is very cool too. And if the creature from the Black Lagoon musical elevated her in any way to get to the place that she is now, maybe the musical isn't so bad after all. Part 7, we're all going to die. Wow, I need to stop ending my videos on such a bleak note. The Creature from the Black Lagoon, the musical, is a musical with too many thes and not enough substance. It was critically panned and didn't even make it to Halloween. It's horribly dated even less than 15 years later, and if it came out today, let's be honest, it probably wouldn't have even lasted a month. But all of that being said, I kind of love it. I love how every song does so little to move the story forward. I love how bad and forced each reference is. I love this giant creature puppet. Now, whether or not I love each aspect of this musical, ironically or not, is sort of up for debate in my head. On one hand, this musical has everything I dislike in a musical. But on the other hand, I simply just don't want to hate this. It can't hurt me. The reasons I don't like it are the reasons that no one liked it. That's why it closed. I love that this very poor attempt at pandering to the audience with pop culture references and epic rock songs and racism didn't work, leading to a piece of art that is forever stuck in time. Matt Farrell, one of the guys who played the creature and one of the only people in this show who have it listed publicly on the internet, is forever the creature. And that's something that happens so rarely in musical theater. How beautiful is that? In a way, I'm going to start living my life like the creature from the Black Lagoon musical, because much like this musical, one day we're all gonna die. So why not do what rings true to you and be unapologetically yourself? Except for murder and the kidnapping, and the racism. Just refrain from those and you're all set. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you for being here. I wanted to advertise this in a main video, but I now have a second channel where I'm also putting video essays. These are not nearly as well researched or scripted as they are on this channel, but it's a way for me to get out content to you quicker because I understand that the gap between videos is not always short. It's called Maxwell to the Green. Sort of like, I'm not going to explain the reference, you get it. I did want to say also thank you so much for your comments, and thank you if you suggested an idea for a video. Some of them have been quite good, and I've looked into, so even if I don't make a video about them, I do enjoy finding out about weird musicals that you know about. Like someone recommended the Raggedy Ann musical to me, and the Doug musical, both of which I looked into and have enjoyed thoroughly. And maybe I'll make a video about them. So if you have a weird musical or just anything you want to tell me about in the comments, tell me. Also, if you've seen a few of my videos and you like them, or you're watching this one and you like this one, you should subscribe to my YouTube channel, because this is the type of video I make all the time and the type of video that I really love to make. So subscribe and like the video, and subscribe and like the video. Again, thank you so much for watching the video. I really do appreciate it, and I love that there's people who watch me talk about weird, obscure, stupid things on the internet. It means the world. Thank you so much. Goodbye. I love you.
We'll murder them all amid laughter and merriment, except for the few we take home to experiment. My pulse will be quickening with each drop of strychnine we feed to a pigeon. It just takes a smidgen to poison a pigeon in the park.